Welcome back, Tesla fans, to Tesifix, the podcast that helps you decode all things Tesla so you can get the most out of your EV experience.
Yeah.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something that might seem super basic at first.
Yeah.
But trust me, there's more to it than meets the eye.
Those colorful lights on your Tesla charge port.
You know, those little lights are actually pretty important.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like your car's way of communicating with you about what's happening during charging.
Exactly. Imagine pulling up to a supercharger, plugging in, and then bam, a rainbow of colors starts flashing.
Yeah.
What do they all mean?
Yeah. Good question. Well, today, we're going to crack the code.
All right.
We'll be focusing mainly on the Model Y manual, but a lot of this info likely applies to other Tesla models too.
I think so, yeah.
So first up, the white light.
That solid white light is your starting point. It means your Tesla is ready and waiting to charge.
Yeah.
Simple enough. But then things get a little more interesting with the blue light. Let's say you plug in and it starts blinking blue. What's going on there?
That blinking blue means your Tesla is essentially shaking hands with the charging station.
Okay.
It's checking compatibility,
Okay.
making sure everything is good to go before the energy starts flowing.
Gotcha.
It's also checking the available amperage to optimize the charging speed.
So it's more than just a hello. It's like a whole negotiation happening behind the scenes.
Precisely. Now, if that blue light stays solid, it means you've got scheduled charging activated.
Ah, scheduled charging. That's a Tesla feature a lot of people might not even know about.
Yeah, it's a great way to save money on your electricity bill, especially if your utility company has time of use rates. You can set your Tesla to charge during off-peak hours when electricity is cheaper.
Okay.
You basically program it to charge overnight while you're sleeping.
So solid blue means your Tesla's got your back and your wallet's back too.
Now on to green, which has got to be a good sign, right?
You bet. A blinking green light means your Tesla is charging away, doing its thing.
I have to admit there is something pretty satisfying about seeing the green light blinking.
I know.
It's like, yes, my car is getting powered up.
It's reassuring.
It is.
And here's a fun little detail from the manual. As the battery gets closer to full, the blinking actually slows down.
Really? I never noticed that. So it's like a visual countdown to a fully charged battery.
Exactly. And once that green light turns solid, you know you're good to go. Your Tesla is fully charged and ready to hit the road.
Perfect. So far, so good. White, blue, green, all positive vibes. But now let's get into the OO zone. Amber and red.
Right.
These are the lights you don't want to see, right?
Right. They're like little warning flags. They indicate something might be off and needs your attention.
Okay, starting with amber. What does it mean if you get a solid amber light?
A solid amber light, or even a blinking one, typically points to a connection issue. Could be that the connector isn't fully plugged in or there's something blocking it.
So it's like the car is saying, hey, something's not quite right here. I can't get a good connection.
Exactly. And that's where knowing your charge port lights can really help you troubleshoot on the spot. The manual has a step-by-step guide for this.
Yeah.
But the first thing you should always do is just try realigning the connector.
Sometimes it's that easy.
Right. If that doesn't do the trick, check for anything that might be obstructing the port or the connector itself.
Right.
It could be dirt, debris, a stray leaf, anything like that.
You'd be surprised what can get stuck in there.
Yeah.
And if you're still having trouble.
If you've tried realigning and checking for obstructions, the next step would be to try a different charging cable. Sometimes the cable itself can be the culprit.
Okay, good to know. Now for the light we all dread. Solid red. That can't be good.
The solid red light does mean there's a fault in the charging system.
Okay.
Charging has either stopped or can't even begin. But don't panic. Your Tesla is a smart car. It's designed to be safe.
That's reassuring. What's the first thing you should do if you see that red light staring back at you?
Check your touchscreen. It will usually display a specific error message that tells you what's wrong. It might point to an issue with the charger, the cable, or the car itself.
So the touch screen is your first line of defense when it comes to troubleshooting a charging fault.
Exactly. And if there's no message on the touchscreen,
what do you do then?
The manual recommends a few things. You can try a different charging cable, just like we talked about with the amber light. If you're using a mobile connector or a wall connector, you can try resetting the charging source. And you can always try the classic tech solution, restarting your car using the touchscreen.
So there are still a few things you can try before calling in the cavalry, even if you don't get a specific error message. Now we've covered white, blue, green, amber, and red. That leaves us with one final scenario. No light at all.
Ah, yes. The case of the missing light.
Kind of spooky, right? Like, what's going on? Is my car haunted?
Not quite. In most cases, no light simply means your car is locked and has been asleep for a while to conserve energy.
So it's basically chilling out off the clock.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you need to see the light, just unlock your car or press the button on the charge handle and it'll reappear.
It's like waking it up from a power nap.
You got it.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
We've covered all the Tesla charge port lights from white to red and even no light.
Yeah, we did it.
But what does all this mean for the average Tesla owner? Why should they care about decoding these lights?
That's where it gets really interesting. Well, think of it this way. You're not just driving a car, you're driving a sophisticated piece of technology.
Right. It's like a computer on wheels.
Exactly. And just like you wouldn't want to use a computer without understanding its basic functions, you don't want to drive your Tesla without knowing what it's trying to tell you.
So understanding the charge port lights isn't just about knowing the colors.
Right.
It's about being in tune with how your Tesla communicates.
Precisely. It's about being an informed owner and being able to troubleshoot basic issues yourself.
Like if you see that amber light, you don't have to immediately panic and call Tesla roadside assistance.
Right. You can check the connection, try a different cable, and potentially save yourself a lot of time and hassle.
And knowing about scheduled charging can actually save you money in the long run.
It's a great way to optimize your charging routine and be more energy efficient.
Okay, I'm convinced. Decoding those lights is definitely a smart move for any Tesla owner. But let's zoom out for a second and talk about other electric vehicles.
Sure.
I'm curious, do other EVs have similar light systems?
Yeah.
Or is Tesla kind of unique in that way?
That's a great question. A lot of EV manufacturers are starting to adopt similar color coding systems for their charge port lights, mainly for the sake of consistency.
Makes sense. You wouldn't want drivers to have to learn a whole new language every time they switch to a different EV brand.
Exactly. So you'll often see green for charging amber for warnings and red for faults across various EV models.
But is it as granular as Tesla's system? With the blinking versus solid, the slowing blink as the battery fills up and all that.
Some manufacturers do get that detailed, but not all of them. You might encounter an EV that just has a solid green light while charging.
Okay.
No matter the battery level.
So it might not give you as much information at a glance as a Tesla?
Right, but they might compensate for that in other ways. Some EVs rely more on apps or dashboard displays to communicate charging details.
It's all about conveying the information effectively, whether it's through lights, sounds, or digital interfaces.
Absolutely, and this is where things get really interesting. Some car companies are getting really creative with how they communicate charging status.
Oh, like what? Give me some examples.
Well, some EVs are using sound cues to indicate charging progress.
Okay.
You might hear a subtle chime when you plug in.
Okay.
Or a change in tone as the battery gets closer to full.
Ooh, that's a neat idea. Kind of futuristic, too.
Right. And it can be particularly helpful for drivers with visual impairments.
I like that they're thinking about accessibility.
And then there are some EVs that are incorporating haptic feedback into the charging experience.
Haptic feedback, you mean like vibrations?
Exactly. So you might feel a gentle pulse through the steering wheel or your seat as the car is charging.
Wow. That's pretty high tech.
It is. And it shows how EV manufacturers are constantly innovating and trying to create a more intuitive and even enjoyable charging experience.
It seems like the ways EVs communicate with us are evolving right alongside the technology itself.
Absolutely. And it'll be fascinating to see what they come up with next.
Yeah.
Maybe holographic projections of the charging progress?
Who knows? The possibilities are endless. But jokes aside, all this talk about EV communication makes me think of another important question. If there are all these different systems out there, do you think it's going to be confusing for EV drivers?
That's a valid concern, but I think as long as EV manufacturers prioritize user-friendliness and clear communication, drivers will be able to adapt. It's like learning a new language. Once you grasp the basic concepts, you can start to understand different dialects.
That's a great analogy. And honestly, most of these systems are designed to be intuitive.
Right.
You don't need an engineering degree to figure them out.
Exactly.
Right. You just need to be observant and willing to learn.
And that's where resources like this podcast come in handy.
Yeah.
We're here to break down the complexities and make EV ownership as smooth and enjoyable as possible.
Absolutely. So to recap what we've learned today, Tesla owners, you are now fluent in charge port light.
You got it.
You can confidently interpret those colors and troubleshoot basic charging issues.
And even if you have a different EV brand, you have a good foundation for understanding how your car communicates with you, During charging, those lights, sounds, and vibrations are more than just signals. They're messages from your EV giving you valuable insights into its operation.
It's all about paying attention to the details and being in tune with your electric companion.
And as EV technology continues to advance, we can expect even more innovative ways to interact with our vehicles. It's an exciting time to be an EV owner.
It really is. And we're excited to be on this journey with all of you.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into EV communication. We hope you found it illuminating.
And if you did, be sure to subscribe to Tesifix for more tips, tricks, and insights into the world of electric vehicles. We'll be back soon with another episode.
Until then, drive safe, charge smart, and stay curious.